Welcome to the Action Lab Leadership Podcast, the show where we have honest, unfiltered conversations with business leaders. I'm Danny, founder of Action Lab Leadership, and today we are joined by Chris Epstein, Business Development Officer at Laserforce. Chris, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me, Danny. I love The Office. It's been a while since I've seen it, so it looks like you've made a lot of progress on your office there since the last time we talked.
I have indeed. I'm constantly adding to that. So I want to start this interview where we always do, this conversation about the idea of leadership. The word leadership means a lot of things to a lot of different people. In your mind, Chris, how do you define leadership and what does it mean to you to be a leader?
I think the way I would define leadership is when you primarily like your just intuitive instincts and your natural, reflex is to make sure everybody that's important to you or with you or on your team, however you want to define your people, your natural inclination is first to make sure that they are fine, they're taken care of, they're coming with you, and we're all like progressing and on the journey together. So like it's just when that takes over, like, and I feel like leadership is different in every, some people are leaders wherever they go, some people are leaders in certain sections, and then but when you have that area or that industry or wherever you are in life, and you're like, it's really important that I take everybody along with this journey with me, and we're all in this together, and I want to see everybody succeed. That's I think leadership to me. So that's how I would describe leadership.
When you say take them along with you and get
Mhm.
everybody together, does that mean having a sense of camaraderie? Does that mean, hey, this is where we are and we all know the exact place that we're going together? We know what the destination is. We know where we're moving toward. When you say everyone's along with you, what does that mean for you?
Yeah, I think it's like you all have a common goal, right? And define that how you will, and that goal can change, and you can have small goals, big goals, whatever that is. But your compasses are all pointed in the same relative direction, and your timelines are all kind of synced up. So it's like we all want to get to a and we all want to get there together, and we all want to get there relatively the same time. And I think that's what I would say is kind of moving together, coming together, bringing people along with you.
What I like about that definition for you is that it has nothing to do with title. It has nothing to do with position or rank within an organization because you don't, in my opinion, and that you don't have to be a manager and literally having people who report to you in order to be a leader. Leadership is influence and being able to be a positive influence on the people around you. And it sounds like that's kind of what you're describing here because you're not necessarily in a position where you're saying, I'm a manager of people, but you are a leader of people and how you show up and how you act through work and everywhere else.
Yeah, and I think that to me too is like I've never been a huge fan of titles or you know uh, clout or however you want to say it, but I think I'm a big fan of people who drive, like right, like whether it's pulling people along, pushing people along, or like arm in arm together, but it's like we're driving progress in some form. So that to me is like ultimately what it's about.
Well, when we talk about driving progress and we're arm in arm, I know that part of your background is you were in your former career, you were a teacher and you were a football coach. And there's
Yeah.
so much of that idea of arm in arm camaraderie and driving toward a specific goal as a football coach. How did that experience of being a coach kind of inform the way that you show up and you are a leader today?
Yeah, I think it's crazy, and just kind of reflecting on that sometimes, how different it was, but also how similar it is. And you go from coaching and really like specializing, in a certain specific role, and really it's your job as the coach to kind of look at every angle and look at watch film and do all these things, and then take all of that and then just kind of funnel it into like, this is what works, this is what we're going to focus on. And then the harder part too is, okay, that, how can you communicate that effectively to other people and then help them, right, internalize that and understand it. So that is a big part of coaching, right? Everyone thinks it's like toughness and intellect, and yes, those are important, but it's like, how effectively can you take a bunch of information that other people may not have access to, decide what's really going to help this person, and then effectively communicate that where they're able to use it, right? So being able, like learning that skill, and then moving into this industry and being able to help people in their centers and their businesses, like honestly, and you're kind of in the same boat. I'm in a very unique position across the industry where I get to talk to so many people, right, on a daily basis, all across, North America, South America, and get to visit so many sites and see so many people. And I'm able to collect a lot of ideas, and then, kind of like, hey, these are the things that people are doing that are having success, and these are the things that maybe people have tried and are not working, and then effectively communicate that to other operators. So it's like a really unique position, and it's a skill set that I definitely learned from coaching. So yeah, it's I would have never imagined that, like, that's the big takeaway I would have had, but here we are.
Yeah, it's like when you go to a location and you're talking to those people about at their venue, what's working for you and what's not. It's kind of your equivalent today of watching film, of understanding what's happening where and how to bring that information back. And like you said, it's not just, oh, I know this nugget of information or I recognize this thing, but it's the ability to clearly communicate that to your players, your team, your other clients in a way that lands with them and they go, I understand it. Let me implement this idea in my own venue or in my own team or in however that looks.
Yeah. And weeding out the noise and maybe things that aren't prevalent to a certain business, right? Because just like when you watch film, you're like, hey, like this is great, but like we don't need to focus on this. Like this is, we're fine. Like let's not waste time on that. So kind of being able to like sift through things that, while great, not necessarily mission critical for most folks, right? And then so just kind of like really funneling information and then deciding like this is important to you and this is important to your business and you need to know these things.
When I go back and think about the idea of coaching a football team, and you had mentioned, let's say you're a position coach. And so you're really focused on this individual position and the things that they need to do on a particular play or with a particular strategy to be successful. So as this is the direction we're marching, is to be successful with this. But that's the micro. There's also the macro of what is the overall team doing and what is the overall goal of this game.
Yeah.
Right. And so it's balancing, not balancing, but it's finding both the micro and the macro of, hey, today in this moment, here's how we're going to be successful with this drill, but also this is how we want to be successful as a team overall. Do you think you see that micro and macro day to day in your position now and what you do?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's in balance is the best word, because I feel like it's both sides of the same coin, where it's like you have to be able to think about what am I doing today, and then how does that fit into what am I doing this week? How does that fit into what I'm doing this month? How does that fit, this quarter? And then obviously we have like roadmaps where like this is all part of the journey where we're going to get here. And yeah, and then it's fascinating. And then yeah, being like great analogy, like a position coach, right? So like I'm not out there doing installations. I'm not out there maybe handling certain other aspects like tech support or things like that. But I handle, like, I have to be able to work with those other, let's call them coaches, right? Those positions, and being able to like coordinate and work together. And so that's how I picture everything too. Like we're arm in arm, we're all together, and we're just kind of like one big happy family. And we're all on that journey together.
Well, one of the things is you've also got a background in being a laser tag enthusiast. You were a player throughout much of your time growing up, and you've gone from that place of being an enthusiast player to what you do today, which is selling laser tag equipment, among other things that you sell as well. But what is it like to be able to come from a background where you have such enthusiasm about this industry and about this attraction and about this kind of business? And how does that enthusiasm inform the way that you show up day to day and work with people, whether it's internally at your company or externally with clients? What is that enthusiasm of being someone who just loves and appreciates this attraction so much? How does that manifest itself in what you do every day?
Yeah, and just for the record, very mysterious how you said that amongst other things that I sell. Just one other thing, just pixel. So just clear that up for everybody. But yeah, so to answer the question though, Danny, honestly, I think the key and always been like the core principle of my life is like I have to really 100% get behind an idea or a person or a company or a product, like whatever it is that I'm a part of. With coaching, it was the principle of like helping people and then finding a school and a program that I would want to be a part of, right? And same thing with laser tag, like it was the same thing. Like I have to be 100%. The conviction has to be 100, not 99, 100, right? And being a player and having that background really allowed me to approach it with 100% conviction. I am a product of laser tag, the industry. As you are as well, right? Like, and so many of us are, where it's like I know what it can be, not just for operators, but for communities, for people. So how powerful it is. So being able to wake up every day and be like, I am a product of that. Like it's very easy for me to approach every conversation and every time I talk about laser tag and talk with people about laser tag or go to sites and just like, you know, I live and breathe and have been doing that for so long. And then obviously just having the background of like seeing the evolution of laser tag for 20 plus years across the industry, like knowing the history, being able to appreciate where we are today and where we're headed, I think is ultimately really important too. Like becoming a steward of laser tag, so to speak.
Well, it's the reminder too that, and I'm sure you've experienced this as well, because my very first job I ever had was 15 years old, and I worked at a laser tag venue, and I did that through high school and college. And
And you're
then
20 now, which is crazy. It's crazy that was 5 years ago, right? Like you've come
right,
so far in 5 years, man.
so far in 5 years, yes. But it's wild that one experience and one decision of getting a job at a laser tag venue has led to so many things in my life being the way they are today, and
Literally this
having the
conversation right now, like right now, us having this conversation is because you took that job and I took a job at a laser tag site. Like think about that in Texas and Indiana, right? And now here we are today talking about it.
It's wild. And it's the reminder too that not only we can look backwards and we can connect the dots of our own life and see how these decisions have had a huge impact on us, but it's the reminder too for the clients that we serve, the people who are running these venues, that, hey, your employees, these aren't just hey, I'm going to hire someone for a year or two in high school and then they're going to move on forever. Their ability to create a place where their employees can learn work ethic, where they can have fun, they can learn teamwork and camaraderie, that makes a difference. They Most of their employees will probably never take the same path that you and I did, of being in a position where 15 years later or 5 years later, 20 years later, whatever that is, that they're still in the industry, and that's okay. But the lessons that they learn working at their venue, they're going to take with them their whole career. So it's not just a job in high school, it's the foundation of everything to come. And is that something that you consider and think about when you're talking to these operators and your clients about their business?
Absolutely. One of the first things I make sure to communicate is, the next time you're doing hiring or if they're just starting a new business, going into it, you need to find people that have passion for laser tag or whatever it is, bowling, or they just have to have like that, like they have to enjoy it and play it. And I mean, that to me is like absolute critical, right? So yeah, I communicate. That's one of the first things I tell people, because if you have somebody there championing that for you while you're not at your site, like that's fantastic, right? And they do it because they love it. And you're absolutely correct, right? Like, we're kind of outliers in the sense of like, yes, like we started working just entry level laser tag marshal, and then now we're here. But there's also people that like go into adjacent paths, like, but they're the skills that they've learned, whether it's like marketing or group sales or whatever it is, logistics, they learn those things while they're there. And here's what I love most. This is one of the things I think people don't talk about enough. A lot of our family entertainment centers, or they're small businesses, right? They're family owned operations. Like a lot of them are. And how lucky are some of us that we get to at such a young age, 16, work for somebody who's an entrepreneur, started their own business, and is running a successful business. Like, you have access to those people at such a young age, and they're teaching you things about business that you're just like, wow, where else would I learn that? You know what I mean? Like, it's incredible that we have the ability to talk to people like that at such a young age. So I think that's like one of the most underrated things too. Is it's like, wow, what an opportunity to learn from somebody who's so successful.
Well, and speaking of learning, as leaders and as professionals, we're constantly learning and growing all the time. And when you look at yourself, what are the leadership qualities or the leadership characteristics right now that you're most trying to improve in yourself? When you look at this coming year that you're in, what are the areas that you think to yourself, I really want to focus on this and improve this so it can change how I show up in the organization and for other people?
Yeah, for me, one of the things I've been working on, definitely a few different things, and they're all kind of tied together, but celebrating wins is always, always a like ongoing struggle, but kind of getting better at that. And I definitely have, obviously, I mean, you've helped a lot with that. And then the other two that kind of are related are pacing. And, when I say pacing, I mean like really looking at things, and this goes with the last thing, is like really kind of zooming out a bit more and looking at things at a higher elevation, right? What is the 10,000 foot view or whatever that saying is. But so those are kind of all things all kind of tied together, but really trying to do better with those things. Like I unfortunately was a sprinter, back in the day. So it's like, that's just how I am, like just fast, furious, head down, running through walls and things like that. So really trying to get better around zooming out, having a pace, celebrating wins.
When you say having a pace, do you mean being able to work at a rate that's more sustainable over the long term instead of sprinting, getting exhausted and burning out, sprinting, getting exhausted and burning out? Is that what that means for you?
Yeah, and I wouldn't say burnout, but I just mean sometimes it's important to, Rome wasn't built in a day. And sometimes, like, I know this is something I'm guilty of, and I know a lot of people in our field are guilty of this. Like, it's very hard for me sometimes to put down the phone or not answer an email or not answer a call, or like just pace alone of like, that email I can answer tomorrow. And I could look at that text message, not while I'm laying in bed ready to go to sleep, but like I will look at it tomorrow morning. Things like that, where it's like, I just need to do better about setting that pace of like, this work will be here tomorrow morning, and it feels like such a like, oh, we're trained to be like, work, go. But that same text message will be there in 8 hours when I wake up, and, or that email, I can probably respond even better when I'm like refreshed in the morning with a cup of coffee, but like, so that's what I mean by pace. It's like, I just got to do a better job of that. And, I'm guilty too. Like I haven't taken a lot of PTO and like things like that. So it's like, sometimes I think I need to just make sure I'm doing those things and like really like setting an intentional pace for myself.
Well, it's interesting, and I don't know if I've mentioned this specifically on the podcast before. I've mentioned this in other places, but there's a fascinating concept that when as kids, many of us, not everyone grows up this exact same way, but for many people, when you grow up as kids, you have a very finite list of things to do. Of do your homework and then you can hang out with your friends, or do these chores around the house and then you can go have fun. Do this and then that. There is finish the list and then you have fun. But as an adult and as a professional, our to-do list is never ending. There's never a point in time where anyone that I talk to feels that they could possibly ever get 100% caught up and everything is done. It doesn't happen. And so we have this kind of wiring in our brains that we don't allow ourselves to relax and have fun until the to-do list is done. But the to-do list can't ever get done. There's always more things to do. And it's the ability to recognize and let go of that old finite list mentality of doing what I can do today to be as successful as possible, and then knowing when to turn it off and then switching my mind to something else, whether that's your family or leisure time or a vacation or whatever it is. Is that something that you've recognized in yourself as well?
Yeah, I mean, you've been holding out on me because you've never told me that before, but that is a very good point. And yeah, maybe that's the way myself and others like me probably try to frame it is like there is no, and funny enough, like I've adopted to-do lists a couple of years ago and like I love that, but it's also like, yeah, you're right, that the list will never actually be done, right? And the catch 22 is like, you know, my whole job is to create work, right? Like create work and like create opportunities and things like that. So it's almost like an avalanche of like the more success, like you were just creating a lot more work and the list is just growing. So yeah, I mean, maybe that's the key, right? Like just don't have that finish your chores, go play video games mentality. You know, and that's, yeah, that's exactly like what I needed. I'm working on pacing and things like that. So yeah, let me see if I can just rewire my brain really quickly here and forget the to-do list mentality. So I'll let you know how that goes next time I see you.
That sounds good. I'm surprised I haven't shared that one and I don't even remember where I first heard that or learned that. Sometimes
You
because I'm
probably just made it
constant.
up right now. Like you probably just came to
Yes,
you.
I'm going to claim that is mine. I
You
made it
should.
up. I don't actually know. Almost nothing in this world is 100% unique. We all stand on the shoulders of giants of the things we've learned from other people, and then we add and change and adjust. But the other thing I wanted to ask you about that ties into the idea of pacing, you had mentioned being able to kind of zoom out and see the bigger picture, the 10,000-foot view, as you had mentioned. For you, what exactly does that mean in your role? Does that mean being able to zoom out beyond the to-do list of the next hour and this afternoon and see the bigger picture of the next week and month? Does that mean being able to zoom out from your individual role in sales to be able to see how the whole company is operating together? Is it a combination of the two? Is it something else? What does zooming out mean for you?
I think for me, zooming out specifically is, you know, we're a big company, like international company. So sometimes I just get very hyper focused on like, what am I doing in my market and in my lane? And yeah, like there's so much else going on all the, 24/7 every week. Right. So I think sometimes I just really, yeah, I need to kind of step back and just like start looking like, what are some things maybe we're doing in Europe that we could adopt and start doing in the US or vice versa, things like that. So really kind of looking, yeah, more stepping back, looking at the entire picture of everything that Laserforce does, and not necessarily just what are we doing in our specific lane here in the US. So I think that's one thing I mean, there's a lot to learn. A great company filled with years of experience. So definitely probably need to do a better job on that front. So that would be one great example of just like zooming out for me.
I also want to mention that ever since that I've known you in the industry, because you started at Laserforce, I think it was like 4 or 5 years ago.
Yeah, 5 years ago now, man, it's crazy.
When you started Laserforce 5 years ago, and I've seen you, you and I've gotten to know each other very well through the mastermind, but I also see you at tons and tons of events and different trade shows and all over the place.
I've
And
been known to pop up at an event or two,
just a couple.
just a couple, just here and there.
One of the things that I've always noticed and appreciated about you is that you are you everywhere you go.
Mhm.
There's not a Chris that I see in this area over here who's a different Chris than I see in this area over here. Everywhere I see you, you are unapologetically you. You are unapologetically Chris in that environment. Where do you feel like that ability comes from to just show up authentically and enthusiastically as yourself? Because I think there are a lot of people who struggle with that and they, you know, maybe not be fake in certain environments, but they modulate different
Sure.
aspects of who they are. Where does that ability come from for you?
I think for me, I don't know who told me this or where this idea came from. Not me, right? I'm not going to claim the credit, but something along the lines of, you won't get along with everybody. It's not going to be a good fit with everybody. You won't have like real relationships with everybody. So it's like, you're already not going to be able to do those things. So why not just be yourself and like be authentic? And then the people that will reciprocate that, like, oh, like we are going to be a good fit for each other. We will be friends. Like we will get along. So again, I can't remember who told me that at like very young, but it was just like, it made sense to me. It's like, you're right. Like there's only 24 hours a day. There's only so much time. So it's like, why not be myself and then attract other people that get along with me for being myself, and then we're gonna have like real fun and real relationships. And it's and everybody, I feel like everybody, everyone has their own style and way they go about things, but that's just what works for me. And I think it makes it also way more enjoyable to do those things, right? Like when you just know, like, I'm just going to go be myself. And for the record, I that is definitely me. I am me. And some people are just like, I've been at dinners and people are just like, who invited this guy? Like, why? And it happens, right? It's like, yeah, sometimes it's like, okay, well, that's that. And I think and thank you for saying that, Danny. And if you're ever around me and my wife and I, that's the only time you'll see a different version. Where you're like, oh, wow, he's wearing a suit and tie and he's very buttoned up, So next time you're down in Texas, like, you'd be like, okay, this is married Chris.
So you're telling me that if I were to come knock on your door and visit your house randomly in the middle of summer, you'd be wearing a suit and tie? Is that what you're telling me right now?
I mean, if my wife was sewing this button, we'd be buttoned up right now. We'd be maybe two buttons. I don't know. So, but she is not. So we got that. So,
Fair
but
enough.
yeah, thank you for saying that. No, I appreciate. I mean, it's important to me to just be me. Yeah.
I want to connect the idea that we were talking about football and being a positional coach and seeing the goal right in front of you with the bigger picture and where you're going. And I want to connect that to chess because you and I both
I've
appreciate
heard of
chess.
that.
We both play chess. The way we describe it, neither of us are good, but we enjoy the game, right? Do you feel like there's a certain level of the way that I think about this is that you started chess match with a plan in place, an idea for where you eventually want to get, the type of opening you're going to have, but also knowing the next couple of moves right in front of you. It's that micro and the macro and being able to adjust in the moment. Do you think that there's a connection between you as a position coach and you as a teacher and the reason that you like chess so much as well, of that micro and macro of adjusting in the moments and having goals and working on small strategies that inform a bigger goal as well?
Absolutely. I think for me, what I love, and this is like I guess a core principle for me, or whatever you want to call it, but I really like the trying to solve a problem in not the most maybe obvious way, maybe not the most efficient way, but the most fun and creative way. That's how I kind of do that with everything, whether I'm playing chess, coaching, video games, whatever it may be, because I think just coming at it from that angle. Sometimes when we're playing chess, like, I'm like, this is definitely maybe not the best move, but I'm really curious how the rest of the game will now play out. Like, this will be a different game. Um, and that was kind of the similar philosophy with football, where it's like, I really wonder how the other team is going to react if we show them this or do this, And then, yes, absolutely, it becomes a chess match. So it's like, well, we're going to do this, and then I think they're going to do that, but you never know, right? So that's just really fun for me. I enjoy that very much, and you've probably been on the receiving end of some of those weird moves, and you're like, okay, but yeah, that's how I like to maybe approach things and solve problems and work on tasks, where it's like, what's like a fun and unique way to approach this? That maybe it's not the most efficient, but you never know. Maybe in the process of being creative and unique, you find an efficient way to do it, right? So usually not, but sometimes yes, right? So, and then not being afraid to, like, I think the key is, like, yeah, like, a lot of times it won't be better, and you just have to live with it. Like, okay, it wasn't better. That's okay. And sometimes it's a complete disaster, and you just have to, like, all right, I'll never do that again, right? I just got checkmated. But yeah, I think that to me is why I do the things I do in chess and football and things like that.
Well, it's interesting because chess and football are finite games. There's a beginning and an end, and there's a winner and a loser, right? But business is not that way. The business is an infinite game, as Simon Sinek has called it in his book, where the whole point is just to keep playing. There's no Super Bowl. There's no end of the game where someone won and someone lost. It's just keep playing. As long as you're playing the game, you're in it. How does that idea of taking the most fun and creative approach show up in your day-to-day work? Do you think about your projects and your tasks and things like that through that lens there as well? Or is that specifically reserved for things like hobbies?
No, absolutely. whatever they'll let me get away with usually, right? I answer to people, so I can't just go as much as, yeah. So, but yeah, and that's one of the things I love about the company I work for is they're okay to take some creative swings and misses, right? And approach things a little bit differently. And I think that like drives innovation, right? That helps. If you're gonna lead an industry, like you have to be okay with those things, and you have to be okay with those things maybe not being successful. That's always the hard part, right? Like, one of my favorite things to talk about is like football. You're down by 1 point, you just scored a touchdown, you're down by one. Do you kick the extra point, or do you go for the 2 point conversion? And everybody will tell you go for the 2 point conversion until it's unsuccessful, right? And then everyone's going to say, why would you go for a 2 point conversion, right? So I think you have to be okay. One of the things I love is watching post-game interviews, and they're talking to coaches who went for it and it was not successful. And it's just like, yeah, I would do the same thing over again. Like, it's, you know what I mean? So, yeah, I apply that as much as I possibly can to the role I am. And I think that helps. And then naturally too, the industry we're in kind of allows and not only allows, but rewards creativity, right? I mean, we are in the fun and entertainment industry. So it's kind of a natural thing that we're granted. So yes, absolutely.
Well, it's interesting that you use that example of the 2 point conversion, because I think that there's also another layer to this of it's one thing for a person to watch someone else in the game and say, yeah, they should go for a 2 point conversion. But it's a whole different thing when they're the coach, so to speak, and they're in the position of taking the risk or not, and how risk averse people become when it's on them. It's so much easier to be
Yeah,
critical when someone else is doing something, but when you're in that driver's seat, or you're the coach, or you're making the decision, or it's about your business or whatever it is, it's a lot different because there's so much more personal impact that comes from that.
absolutely. And it's one thing to gamble with somebody else's money or somebody else's success or somebody, like whatever, but like when you are going to ultimately, like, the buck stops with you, or you're going to get the risk and you're going to get the reward. So yeah, it's just fascinating. And I think the 2 point conversion analogy is like, just, it's perfect because everyone is so like, when, go for it, do it, oh, I'd go for it. And then as soon as it's unsuccessful, people are like, what a terrible decision, like, what were you thinking, So, yeah, I think one of my favorite things people always talk about is like one of the best skills that I always taught as a coach was learning how to fail is like ultimately very important. And I think that's a critical, like, success and key thing to learn if you're going to start approaching problems uniquely and differently.
Well, I think that there's two parts of learning from failure. One is learning from our own when we make our mistakes and we mess up, and being able to reflect and say, this is why that happened. This is what I'm going to do differently next time. And then there's the being able to learn from other people, right? And that's part of the reason why we watch TED Talks and listen to podcasts and read books and all these things, because we're learning and absorbing knowledge and the hard-won lessons and the mistakes from other people, and being able to internalize them in ourselves. And I feel like for you and I could continue talking to you for hours on some of these ideas, but I want to be able to be respectful of your time and kind of wrap up here. So I think people already have learned a lot from this conversation, but if you were to leave them with one idea and one action that they can take starting today in order for them to become a better leader in their own organization, or a better leader in their family, or a better leader in wherever they show up, what would that one action be? What is the hard-fought wisdom from Chris that you would instill upon the viewers and the listeners of this podcast that they can start doing today to become a better leader?
I mean, the first thing that came to my mind, and I promise everybody watching this is not a plug or a pre-planned, but joining a community or a group of people that are either in similar roles or where you want to be or have been there, things like that, like masterminds or anything through action-led leadership or equivalent, right? I'm not saying we got to go with this one and this one only, but honestly, that to me has been one of the bigger blocks of just being able to be successful and build, because everything we've just talked about it's like, hey, like, bounce ideas off somebody, talk to somebody who's done that. Talk to somebody who, is going through something similar to you, and you can help them. And it's just, so I think that is one of the things, like if you are continuing to be a leader, and I think the higher up you go in whatever field you're in, and you're lonelier, right? Like there's less people maybe in your circle, like naturally, that is going through things that you're going through or fighting the battles you're fighting. So joining a community or a group like masterminds or something like that, you access people that you maybe would never talk to. And then, so to me, I think joining a group or community, and then you told me this, like one of the first times I talked to you, which is like, if there has to be some sort of like accountability. You can't just show up when you want to. You can't just, it's like really take it serious. Like this is not just another action item on my calendar today. Like show up, do the work. That would be my advice. I think that is just like such a great thing. And it's fun, it's easy to do, and it matters. Like it has been a big impact on me, and I know other people that have done it. It's been very, very helpful for them as well.
Well, I appreciate the endorsement of the Mastermind program, and I'll include a link to it in the show notes if anyone's interested and wants to look at it. Obviously, that question wasn't meant to be a plug, but I appreciate the endorsement either way.
Literally, and you didn't even tell me you were going to ask me that question. And like, as you're asking, like, well, this would be my advice to somebody. Like, if that would like wholeheartedly, right? Like, this really would help somebody. So,
well, I think this episode is definitely helping people. So Chris, thank you so much for joining us here on the Action Lab Leadership Podcast.
Yep. Thanks so much for having me, Danny.
And thanks all of you who are watching and viewing this and listening on podcast or Spotify or Apple Podcasts or wherever you do get your podcasts. If you like this episode, send this to a person that you think might get some value out of it. Now go out there, take action in your business, and become the leader that your team needs you to be.